Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
How do you feel about Congress shutting down early today to avoid a vote on Epstein docs release? I wish I could just stop working when I don't like something and still get paid. I wish I can vote to give myself a raise. Then if the shareholders get upset, I'll just blame my co-workers in a different department, knowing the shareholders can't do anything to either of us. Tells you all you need to know. That tens of millions of people who claim their hatred against marginalized groups is to protect children, but they voted for a party of pedophiles who protect each other. Sexual assault and child abuse has never been a deal breaker for conservatives or religious zealots. They are complicit. I wouldn't be surprised if most, if not all, of the GOP are diddlers. It's the only logical thing in my opinion, and that's why they unanimously are hiding the truth. I think if you're innocent, then you would jump at the opportunity to get everything out in the open and move on. Something is fishy here. Maybe some of them are on the list, but another thing to consider is that nearly all of them are receiving large donations from all sorts of corporations and wealthy people, and there's also the possibility that some of their biggest donors are on the list. And if they go down, their donations stop rolling in. And that's not necessarily a GOP-only thing. Nancy Pelosi herself was saying the other day that we need to move on from this. Why on earth would one of the top Democrats want to move on from the one story that actually seems to be sticking to Trump? She doesn't seem like she's into abusing children or into sexual assault in general, but she's absolutely very much a fan of collecting large donations from absurdly rich people that may have known Epstein. Admission of guilt. That's exactly what I would expect from a Republican-controlled Congress. At this point, public pressure feels high enough that they are only delaying the inevitable. It's not clear any side is safe from the fallout based on what has been released thus far. Feels worth mentioning at least. I don't think it's inevitable at all. I think they really believe they can just stonewall the public and refuse to address this. 1 month will be all it takes. Hell, I can notice right now the tenor of public vitriol has lessened since last week. People can only remain angry and engaged for so long. There's nothing new to speak of. 1 month and people will still say they care, but nothing will need to happen. That's how they'll slip out of this again. I looked earlier at the conservative sub and there is surprisingly no mention of this. Gotta stay in their safe bubble. Apparently the mods have been actively nuking any threads that discuss Epstein. This is after they declared that all Epstein discussion must be confined to a mega thread that has since been unpinned. I just posted it. https://www.reddit.com/r/conservative/comments/1m6miggy/house_speaker_starts_august_to_avoid/. We'll see how quickly I get banned from that sub. I submitted it a second time. LMAO https://www.reddit.com/r/conservative/comments/1m6mr4x/house_speaker_starts_august_recess_n4kr42d/. And that one was removed within 60 seconds. Truly, they are a bastion of democracy. When you fill a room full of clowns, don't be surprised when it becomes a circus. At least clowns make me laugh. Fuck Congress. Yeah, we should put more respect on clowns than Congress. Calling Congress clowns is an insult to clowns. It's BS. I think that the current iteration of the Republican Party is one of the most shameful group of people I've ever seen. Donald Trump is a felon, a rapist, a pedophile, a conman, an adulterer, and a liar who has the vocabulary and speech pattern of a drunk toddler. Every time they double down to defend him just pushes them further and further away from any chance at redemption. They're a bunch of pathetic cooks who will go down in history as blindly defending a pedophile at the expense of literally everything else. I'm starting to think that pretty much all Republicans are pedophiles. Many Republicans back laws that allow for marriages of 12 years olds and to lower the age of consent. The RNC backed a literal self-admitted pedophile for an Alabama Senate seat only a few years ago. They are the party of pedophiles. It's not far off. https://www.dailycost.com/stories/2025/3/24/2312324/-republican-sexual-predators-abusers-and-enablers-pt-55. Part 55 lol. Also, I don't care about making it a partisan thing. I want all abusers and pedos out. Even if there are Democrats on the list, I don't care. I want it all out there for us to see. Conservatives cannot fathom that liberals would also want pedophilic Democrats removed from office. It's crazy that Al Franken's career ended because of a joke photo. Meanwhile, they will elect a confessed pussy grabber who has been convicted of rape. I wish that we the people had the power to force them to do their fucking jobs that we pay them to do. We do, but at this point that would require significant numbers of people to unite under a single banner and actively protest in a way that hasn't been seen since the civil rights era. We just aren't that country anymore. You're absolutely not wrong, but the media's same washing of everything Trump Republican really fucked us. Outside of Reddit and the occasional protest here and there, it's business as usual for most Americans. Christmas, New Year's, the 4th, summer, sports. People are carrying on not even thinking or talking about politics. I'm not lying when I say that I have days where I have to consciously remind myself which reality is the correct one. This country becomes a bigger joke every day. Are we great yet? Not until we can normalize fucking children. When I can pick up my consensual girlfriend from high school without these woke, Obama liberal snowflakes whining, then this country will be great. Seriously though, why do so many people want to fuck kids? It's awful. Unsurprised but very angry, we have real problems in this country right now. They refuse to acknowledge and work with the problems and choose to cover the sycophants and the delusions. This is a typical Republican tactic. They have covered for Trump all along, through the impeachment trials, the criminal convictions, and the lies about the stolen election. It's to be expected from this amoral group of sycophants. Congress needs to rewrite their rules. No more 6 weeks of paid leave. Half these assholes don't live where they're elected from, they aren't going back home to meet with people or work on family farms. Maybe give them set week breaks of being in DC and they must put on town halls in their areas, or they get fined or get less money for campaigning or something that penalizes avoiding constituents. No more insider trading, all accounts go into blind trusts or whatever the hell it is where they can't benefit from their positions. No more immunity for lying on the floor of the House, it should be treated as a courtroom with perjury. If you lie to the people, you're punished. Age limits, old people shouldn't be making laws for the future that they don't have to live with. Healthcare, we all get what they get or they get what the least of us get. They're supposed to represent the people, they shouldn't get better healthcare than the people. No more immunity for lying on the floor of the House, it should be treated as a courtroom with perjury. If you lie to the people, you're punished. This alone would solve the overwhelming majority of problems. So naturally, the conservatives will fight tooth and nail to keep being able to lie. And I completely agree that it should be. Hell, I'm ready to roll the dice on opening politicians up to criminal liability for their laws. They're all punk-ass bitches. Talk about snowflakes. They throw tantrums every time they don't like the work they're faced with SND they get a summer break. But it makes sense. They act like children, so they do need naps and juice packs for a few months during the year. Still doesn't help. They definitely don't act like civil servants. That's the problem with politics. You get so few good people because it attracts a psychopathic mentality. And most good, smart people see politics and say, why would I want to do that? I applaud those who do, we need them. But I could never function in that arena. The person who would make the best possible president would also never willingly apply for the job. Not great, Bob. The president is a child fucker. And they'll still vote for him. They'd gladly give up their own child to him just for some recognition. It's sickening to think, but deep down everybody knows it's true. GOP pedophiles. For now we have to assume everybody who voted no last week or helped avoid the vote today is either child rapists themselves or willfully protecting child rapists. Simple as that. I actually think that's a fair thing to do. Let them prove otherwise. The pedonald. He controls the Senate and the courts. Bunch of bought and paid for chicken shit bastards. Fascist collaborators. If I stopped working early just cause I'd get fired. Ergo, fire all of them, start over. The GOP are actively working to protect pedophiles, and the American people and media seem to just treat it like another day in the USA. Because it is. Every day in the news cycle is him saying some new outlandish nonsense or something that fucks us and our allies over for the gain of the very few. There's nothing we can do about it because our country is too divided. Our Congress should be ashamed of themselves. They haven't passed a budget on time since Clinton. The FY 2025 appropriations have not been dispersed as they indicated. There is zero checks and balances within the government. Now, they will just pack up and go home in hopes that the news changes. Anyone who believes a politician represents any interest but their own is clearly delusional. Republicans are so cartoonishly evil and fascist that I don't know how every single person on their side sees it. If you were watching a TV show, and an important potentially compromising set of files was being blocked by a group of people in government, those people would be seen as corrupt bad guys. But in real life, they not only get away with it but they get the support from half the country. Trump is a pedophile and raped kids with Epstein. Everything else is a distation. Release the files. Lol, this country is a fucking joke. We are in Watchmen. Republicans are a joke. Well, not a joke, but they are the ones doing this. Yeah, not surprised. Republicans have a pedophilia problem. Republican anti-abortion activist Howard Scott Heldreth is a convicted child rapist in Florida. Republican County Commissioner David Swartz pleaded guilty to molesting 2 girls under the age of 11 and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Republican Judge Mark Pazuhanich pleaded no contest to fondling a 10-year-old girl and was sentenced to 10 years probation. Republican anti-abortion activist Nicholas Morency pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography on his computer and offering a bounty to anybody who murders an abortion doctor. Republican legislator Edison Misler Aldarondo was sentenced to 10 years in prison for raping his daughter between the ages of 9 and 17. Republican Mayor Philip Giordano is serving a 37-year sentence in federal prison for sexually abusing 8 and 10-year-old girls. Republican campaign consultant Tom Shortridge was sentenced to 3 years probation for taking nude photographs of a 15-year-old girl. Republican racist pedophile and United States Senator Strom Thurmond had sex with a 15-year-old black girl which produced a child. Republican pastor Mike Hintz, whom George W. Bush commended during the 2004 presidential campaign, surrendered to police after admitting to a sexual affair with a female juvenile. Republican legislator Peter Dibble pleaded no contest to having an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old girl. Republican Congressman Donald Buzz Lukens was found guilty of having sex with a female minor and sentenced to 1 month in jail. Republican fundraiser Richard A. DelGaudio was found guilty of child porn charges and paying 2 teenage girls to pose for sexual photos. Republican activist Mark A. Grethen convicted on 6 counts of sex crimes involving children. Republican activist Randall David Ankeny pleaded guilty to attempted sexual assault on a child. Republican Congressman Dan Crane had sex with a female minor working as a congressional page. Republican activist and Christian Coalition leader Beverly Russell admitted to an incestuous relationship with his stepdaughter. Republican Congressman and anti-gay activist Robert Bauman was charged with having sex with a 16-year-old boy he picked up at a gay bar. Republican Committee Chairman Jeffrey Patty was arrested for distributing a video clip of a 5-year-old girl being raped. Republican activist Marty Glickman, aka Republican Marty, was taken into custody by Florida police on 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with an underage girl and 1 count of delivering the drug LSD. Republican legislative aide Howard L. Brooks was charged with molesting a 12-year-old boy in possession of child pornography. Republican Senate candidate John Hathaway was accused of having sex with his 12-year-old babysitter and withdrew his candidacy after the allegations were reported in the media. Republican preacher Stephen White, who demanded a return to traditional values, was sentenced to jail after offering $20 to a 14-year-old boy for permission to perform oral sex on him. Republican talk show host John Matthews pleaded guilty to exposing his genitals to an 11-year-old girl. Republican anti-gay activist Earl Butch Kimmerling was sentenced to 40 years in prison for molesting an 8-year-old girl after he attempted to stop a gay couple from adopting her. Republican Party leader Paul Ingram pleaded guilty to 6 counts of raping his daughters and served 14 years in federal prison. Republican Election Board official Kevin Cohn was sentenced to 2 years probation for soliciting sex over the internet from a 14-year-old girl. Republican politician Andrew Burr was charged with 2 counts of first-degree sodomy with a 13-year-old boy. Republican politician Keith Westmoreland was arrested on 7 felony counts of lewd and lascivious exhibition to girls under the age of 16, i.e., exposing himself to children. Republican anti-abortion activist John Allen Burt was charged with sexual misconduct involving a 15-year-old girl. Republican County Councilman Keola Childs pleaded guilty to molesting a male child. Republican activist John Butler was charged with criminal sexual assault on a teenage girl. Republican candidate Richard Gardner admitted to molesting his 2 daughters. Republican councilman and former Marine Jack W. Gardner was convicted of molesting a 13-year-old girl. Republican County Commissioner Merrill Robert Barter pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual contact and assault on a teenage boy. Republican City Councilman Fred C. Smeltzer Jr. pleaded no contest to raping a 15-year-old girl and served 6 months in prison. Republican activist Parker J. Benner pleaded guilty to possession of child pornography on his home computer and was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison and fined $18,000. Republican parole board officer and former Colorado State Representative Larry Jack Schwartz was fired after child pornography was found in his possession. Republican strategist and Citadel Military College graduate Robin Vanderwall was convicted in Virginia on 5 counts of soliciting sex from boys and girls over the internet. Republican City Councilman Mark Harris, who is described as a good military man and churchgoer, was convicted of repeatedly having sex with an 11-year-old girl and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Republican businessman John Grunzeth withdrew his candidacy for Minnesota governor after allegations surfaced that he went swimming in the nude with 4 underage girls, including his daughter. Republican director of the Young Republican Federation, Nicholas Elizondo, molested his 6-year-old daughter and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Republican benefactor of conservative Christian groups, Richard A. Dason Sr., was charged with rape for allegedly paying a 15-year-old girl for sex. Dason, 62, who is married with grown children and several grandchildren, has allegedly told police that over the past decade he paid more than $1 million to have sex with a large number of young women. Dennis Hastert served as Republican Speaker of the House, so third in line for the presidency, for all 8 years of W. Bush's 2 terms. He also sexually molested at least 5 boys when he was a HS wrestling coach, all of them underage, with the youngest victim being 14. The victims only finally saw justice when Hastert was caught by the FBI trying to falsify payments for hush money. Donald Trump walked into Miss Teen USA change rooms with girls as young as 14 changing. 26 women have spoken publicly about Trump's pattern of sexual assault. In 2023, he was found legally liable for the rape of E. Jean Carroll by unanimous jury. Anton Tony Lazzaro, a former Republican donor and political strategist from Minnesota, was convicted in March 2023 on federal charges of sex trafficking minors. He was found guilty of conspiring to recruit and pay teenage girls, aged 15 and 16, for sex between May and December 2020. In August 2023, Lazzaro was sentenced to 21 years in prison for these offenses. Prior to his arrest, Lazzaro was a prominent figure in Minnesota Republican circles, donating over $270,000 to various Republican campaigns and political committees. His indictment led to significant turmoil within the Minnesota Republican Party, culminating in the resignation of then-party chair Jennifer https://geoppredators.wordpress.com/